Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. So the Barney Frank Committee has reported out the long-awaited regulation of derivatives, and it is an obscene joke. We reported previously, if anything, the Barney Frank derivatives bill, now out of committee and headed, I guess, to the floor of the House at some point, makes it easier to create new kinds of toxic derivatives that destroy society, destroy jobs, destroy lives, destroy businesses. These things need to be banned. If they can't be banned, tax them out of existence. Get rid of them. Hats off to the La Jolla Democratic Party, who have passed a very courageous resolution. You can see this up at actindependent.org and various other places. It is a 1% Tobin tax on, principally, derivatives. And there's interest in the derivatives press. There's a whole class of magazines and newsletters that deal only with derivatives. They're interested in the fact that the La Jolla Democratic Party has understood the human dilemma at this point. We're looking now for the California Democratic Party Executive Committee to do something to defend that suffering state. Get some money into your coffers by taxing derivatives. A state can do it. Indeed. States can tax derivatives if they're sold inside the state. That's like a sales tax. Why is it that derivatives are exempt from sales tax when the shoes and clothing and notebooks for your child's back to school are taxed at 8 to 10%? Why can't the bankers pay 1% on their predatory and toxic derivatives? So this is obviously, it's a way to, the power of the tax is the power to destroy. And the quicker you destroy derivatives, the better off it is. And if you can get some money in the public coffers in the meantime, so much the better. Another way, it's not as good, but it would have been halfway serious, is to impose a reserve requirement on derivatives. In other words, if you're a hedge fund or some other investment bank, or no investment banks left now, but something like that, the law could say whatever you sell, you've got to keep 20% of everything you sell. In other words, if you're putting out credit default swaps, then you have to keep 20%. I don't recommend that one because it's not strong enough, but that would have been at least a step forward. In other words, to force people to face the risks which they're unloading on others. Since derivatives, which were marketed as a way to diminish risk, of course, multiply risk geometrically, astronomically into the ionosphere and indeed into interstellar space. So what does Barney Frank have? Robust capital requirements. Yeah, right. 1.5 quadrillion of derivatives. World GDP, 60 trillion. What's the problem? How can you ever have robust capital requirements when the derivatives are something like 20 times, 25 times the amount of economic activity in the world, even if you're willing to count financial services as economic activity? Some reporting is mandated, very weak, and there's some mandatory exchange trading of derivatives so that it gets out in the open, and then they've set up these clearing houses which simply it's like a service to the derivatives mongers, the derivatives merchants. So the Barney Frank derivatives bill is a total monstrosity. Barney Frank has struck out. Barney Frank is obviously a creature of Wall Street. That's who gives him all the money for his campaign fund. He's a creature of the Wall Street hedge fund hyenas and derivatives mongers. And let's put this into perspective. We're told that there's going to be, strict oversight by the Securities Exchange Commission and by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Well, we know what happened to Brooksley Bourne of the CFTC, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, when she tried to even make derivatives reportable 10 years ago. She was hounded out of office by Reuben Summers and Greenspan with the help of Phil Graham and Wendy Graham. It was a bipartisan coalition to impose to crucify the American public on the cross of derivatives and indeed the world public. So that's what happened to her. But now we have the Securities and Exchange Commission has hired a new chief executive officer for enforcement. And who is it? It's Adam Storch. Adam Storch, 29-year-old executive from Goldman Sachs. He's a hedge fund hyena. So we've got the fox guarding the hen house here. Adam Storch, 29-year-old, Goldman Sachs, hedge fund hyena. That's what Goldman Sachs is. It's a hedge fund. No way around it. Not even in drag, openly, blatantly, indecent exposure. So Adam Storch, and he's getting a couple of $100,000 a year in this job, a 29-year-old whelp from Goldman Sachs, whose only activity in life seems to be speculation, hot money, and other anti-economic activities, is going to be put in charge of enforcement. Now, that allows you to gauge what is the seriousness of the Barney Frank derivatives bill. And this was put in by the head of the SEC, I think that is Shapiro at this point, and I think we've got some others involved in that. So this is a true monstrosity. Now let's leave a couple of other things. Yeah, let's not leave finance. Let's stay. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a collection of reactionaries, a collection of free market lunatics, adepts of the Chicago school, Milton Friedman, the Austrian school with von Mises and von Hayek. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is concerned that free market, free enterprise ideology is being eroded and undermined. And what they're doing now is launching a campaign. The estimates vary between $25 million and $100 million to remind, educate, and persuade Americans that the free enterprise system is what has made America great and what will once again lead us back to prosperity. So prosperity is just around the corner, says the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but only if we follow that deathly litany: deregulation, privatization, union busting, destruction of the social safety net, right? Attacks on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, attacks on the minimum wage, attacks on food stamps, attacks on unemployment benefits, right? Strip the American people of all of their economic gains and call that reform. What we need, says the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, individual initiative, individual responsibility in the face of 1.5 quadrillion of derivatives. Ratza ruck, as we say. Hard work, freedom of choice, free exchange of trade, capital, and ideas. Wrong, boys. Not free exchange of trade, capital, and ideas, but protectionism, mercantilism, and dirigism. A modest protective tariff of 10 to 15%. Let's put an end to the excesses of free trade. Let's slap on some exchange controls to prevent hot money from coming in and out. That would be a reasonable measure further into the crisis. Obviously, we want to expand trade in capital goods. We don't need beer from Australia. It's not that good. We should be dealing capital goods on the world stage for world economic development rather than the trivialities of various kinds of consumer goods. So the Campaign for Free Enterprise claims that their goal is to create 20 million jobs over the decade. I was looking at these numbers now. This is still in progress, but it looks to me like we would have to create 30 million jobs almost immediately. 30 with a Y, million jobs to get to full employment. It looks like about 15 million officially unemployed, and if you add in the underemployed and the discouraged ones and some that would enter the labor market if they weren't discouraged in advance, we'd probably need 30 million jobs. We'll check that, but 30 million jobs. With their methods, you won't get jobs, you'll get derivatives, because the money that finance oligarchs get doesn't go into jobs. They don't invest. They gave that up long ago. They manufacture derivatives. See you back in a minute.